You ever see a massive project get underway? A new skyscraper, a big software launch, and just wonder how some of them succeed spectacularly while others, well, they just crash and burn? The secret, it turns out, isn't just about having a good plan for the work itself. Nope, it's having a plan for control. Let's really break down what that means.
And the reason so many of them fail, it often boils down to one fundamental misunderstanding. See, in the big rush to get started, teams will focus entirely on the what. What are we building? But they completely forget to plan for the inevitable chaos of the how. How are we going to manage this thing?
It's the question that keeps project managers up at night, for sure. You've got a brilliant team, you've got a solid budget, a super detailed schedule. You've planned out every single task. So why does it all so often go completely off the rails?
And that right there is the absolute heart of the matter. Having a plan is one thing, but having a system to manage, to monitor, and to steer that plan through the messy reality of a project, that's the real game changer. It's the difference between just hoping for success and actually engineering it.
So what is this plan for control then? Let's introduce the hero of our story, the one document that brings some serious order to all that chaos.
It's officially called a Project Controls Plan, or PCP. And honestly, the best way to think of it is as the project's operating system. It's not about what work gets done, but how that work gets managed, measured, and guided. It often gets skipped because, it feels like boring paperwork when everyone's just excited to start building. But it is the very thing that prevents the whole project from collapsing later on.
And listen, this isn't just some nice idea. A major authority in the field, AACE International, calls the PCP a leading indicator for success. In simple terms, what that means is having a good PCP isn't just a sign that you're on track. It actually predicts you'll stay on track. Its very existence makes a project more likely to succeed. It's a predictive tool, not just a bunch of documents.
Now, this slide really frames the difference perfectly. Think about an orchestra for a second. The project execution plan, that's the sheet music. It tells each individual musician exactly what notes to play. But the project controls plan? That's the conductor's score. It shows how the violins, the brass, the percussion, how they all fit together. It tells them when to speed up, when to slow down, and how to create one beautiful symphony instead of just a jumble of noise.
Okay, so what actually goes into this conductor's score? Well, it all starts with getting the absolute basics right. Crystal clarity on who is doing what. Now, this seems so obvious, right? But this is exactly where so many projects stumble right out of the gate. Ambiguity is the absolute enemy of control. If two people think they're in charge, or even worse, if nobody thinks they're in charge, you are headed for disaster. A great PCP eliminates all of that confusion from day one.
And this right here is one of the best tools for the job, a RACI chart. It stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. So for every key task, you clearly define who does the work, who owns the final outcome, who needs to give their input, and who just needs to be kept in the loop. Take a look at approved change order. The project manager is responsible for getting it done, but the sponsor is ultimately accountable for that decision. See? This simple chart gets rid of confusion and finger pointing. It creates these super clear roles.
So once the roles are defined, the project needs an engine to keep it moving forward. And that comes in the form of this really powerful cycle of continuous course correction.
At its very core, project control is built around this beautifully simple loop. Plan, do, check, act. This is not a one-time thing. It's a constant, repeating cycle that just keeps the project on track. You make a plan, you execute that plan, you check how you're doing against the plan, and then you act on any differences. Then, you start the whole thing over again.
So here's how that cycle looks in action. You start with your baseline plan. That's step one. Then you measure what's actually been done. That's the do. Crucially, you compare the two in the check phase. Are we ahead? Are we behind? Over budget? Then you act by making adjustments. But notice step 5, you check again. It's this relentless feedback loop, and it's designed for one thing and one thing only, keeping the project perfectly aligned with its goals.
Okay, but a great plan is totally useless if it's just sitting in a binder on a shelf, right? The information has to flow. And this is where the toolkit of systems and, maybe most importantly, communication comes into play.
This really is the million-dollar question on any complex project. You've got different teams, different contractors, all sorts of different stakeholders. How in the world do you make sure everyone is working from the same conductor's score, and not just their own little piece of sheet music?
Well, the answer is a predictable, structured rhythm of communication that's all defined in the project controls plan. This isn't about having meetings just for the sake of having meetings. Not at all. It's about creating a project heartbeat, a weekly check-in, a monthly financial review. Everyone knows exactly when and where key information is going to be shared. It makes sure no one is ever left in the dark.
So this whole process produces tangible, useful information. We're talking about the things you see right here: cost reports, schedule updates, risk logs. These aren't just reports to file away somewhere. They are the live instruments on the project's dashboard. They're answering the critical questions. Are we on budget? Has a new risk popped up? This is the intelligence the team needs to make smart, proactive decisions.
All right, let's bring this all together. When you combine those clear responsibilities, that continuous control cycle, and a really solid communication system, what's the ultimate payoff?
This is it. This is the whole point. You stop lurching from one crisis to the next. Instead of just reacting to problems after they've already happened, you start anticipating them. You see the little deviations before they become massive disasters. It turns project management into more of a science, which reduces risk and makes success a predictable outcome, not just some lucky accident.
So as we wrap up, I'll leave you with this one question to ask about any project you're involved in. Does it have a conductor? Or is it just a bunch of soloists doing their own thing? Do you just have the sheet music, a plan for the work, or do you also have that conductor's score, a plan for control? Because the answer to that question is often the difference between a beautiful symphony and just a bunch of noise.